As you can see, it's in now. If we open it up, you can see how it works here. So, as you can see, I've been busy. I apologize, the camera was not charged and I had to get started on this. So I'll give you a rundown. I took the stud finder, measured out from here. I found this stud. You know, if you come across, you can come across and you can find that stud. Then I knew there was one in the middle and then one here, and I knew this would be the perfect spot because the bed sits here, the desk sits here. So after I figured those, I just drew lines up here and then I sawzawed with the Sawzall right down. Gotta be careful of the wires because I knew there was something in here from the outlet. I didn't know there was gonna be plywood on the backside here because it was all insulated. So I had to do a little more cutting. So what I did is I cut out a chunk of plywood just so I could get in there, and then I was able to cut it all out. Obviously the one stud had to get cut out, and then I cut it out from here so I could get the wire off. I'm not worried about the wire because I'm gonna cut that and reroute it for the time being. This is the perfect setup. So what I did is took the insulation out. I'm gonna go get my trim saw so I can cut this down because this has to be 3 inches low because there's gonna be a double stud running across here. The shelf is exactly this wide, a little bit less for that reason because I knew it was gonna be that wide. But I need 50.5 up to account for the hinges. So I'm gonna do the top stud first, get that placed in just behind this drywall. And then once I get that up, I'll measure down 50.5 inches and cut this one down. And then we'll level it all off. So that's what I'm gonna do now. And then we'll move this wire, and then once we get rid of that wire, we can get that bookshelf in here. So let me grab the trim saw and we'll cut these pieces out. I'll measure up 3 inches into here. I'll mark it off. I want that just above the drywall. Take this little guy right here. Let me get my safety glasses. And we just get right up in here, and then we can cut through this. So I got the tough chunk out here. So now we'll go down here and measure down to this bottom one. From where I just cut, and I want to be 56.5 because my opening's 50.5. And I'm adding 3 inches of stud here and 3 inches of stud there for thickness. So I'm going to measure 56.5. It's right about there. I pushed the insulation down here temporarily so we can get it out of the way. So now I'm just going to take that same tool and I'm just going to trim this chunk out right here. Then once I get that out, I can get those 2 studs across here. And that'll make us a nice solid base for this thing to swivel on. It'll be attached to these studs, and then same at the top. I might end up trimming this out a little bit, maybe with some little 1/8 inch board or something just to make it cleaner looking. But that's what we're doing for the time being. So let me get this going. There we go. One chunk out. Let me go get some wood, cut these pieces. What do we got here? 30.5 it looks like, give or take. So I'll cut a couple of these up and then we'll frame this in. Alright, so I got the pieces in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to level it off and put some screws in through the plywood here. And that way I can get it right about where I want it, and then I can nail it in from the side here. I want to make sure this piece is nice and level. This is the important one, obviously, because we want this to be as level as possible. Spot on. That's what we want. So now I'll just sink a couple screws into the sides here. Got that one done. Now we'll do the top one. It should be 50.5, like I said. You can see I screwed them together from the underside so that they're both nice and level. We'll level this one off, and then we'll do the same thing. Perfect. I'll throw a couple screws in there. I gotta get some plywood for out here. Right now I'm standing on this scrap piece that I cut out. Alright, that's good. Okay. The other thing you want to keep in mind is that you don't put these in the way of the other screws. I haven't showed you the hinges yet, but the hinges have to go in here, so I got to make sure I don't put screws in the way of there. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to strip this piece of plywood off the back of there, only because I need to get it for the electrical. So they just stapled it. They stapled the whole piece in here. But the good thing is it actually runs, this bottom piece runs right across here. So I should be able to pull this whole thing out and save it. So unfortunately, my camera died and I had to get this done. So as you can see, it's in now. If we open it up, you can see how it works here. So I got the brackets in and mounted. They mount underneath here on the bottom and same on the top. And then they come right in here like this. I'll bring you in here. You can see right here. It runs right along the 2x4 here. What they measure off of is this swivel point back here, the hinge point. So everything's measured off there. They want you to be 1 inch off of this and 6 inches back from the face of the drywall, which would be the back of this molding. As you can see, I put the molding in. So it's pretty self-explanatory. I put these brackets down. I measured 6 inches back, 1 inch out, screwed them down. They are adjustable. They have oval slots so you can adjust them. Same with the top one. You can see I got the wire out of here. I rewired that. And then underneath here, same thing. The bracket is 6 inches back from here, and then it runs that way instead of this way. So when you close it, everything swivels right on, and then it comes into here and closes. So that's how it had. Now I had to take off, I don't know if you saw in the video, the plywood on the back here. I had to cut that off, so we had to take that off. Now the biggest problem I had, now over here on this side, if you can see it, on this side, I knew this was going to happen, but I wasn't sure how bad it was going to be. I had to cut this back at an angle with a circular saw. So this is all angled back, this whole 2x4, so that it'll clear that swivel as the door closes. I'll show you how the door closes here. You can see right here, I had to cut this back. You can see how this is tight right here, so I had to trim this all back at like a 10-degree angle so that this will clear. And I had to do that all the way up. So that was kind of a pain in the butt. But you wouldn't have that problem if you made the shelf a little bit smaller, but I wanted it to be tight. You could obviously take like a 1/2 inch off of that and that would clear that space for you. But I kind of figured I would have to do this, but I obviously couldn't film it. But it was just a circ saw at an angle and just going right up this beam and just riding it right up and getting a nice cut on it. So that's all done. I am eventually, I think, going to paint this or put a real thin coating or something on it just so it looks nice and clean. And I still have to finish the molding. I just put it up there because I haven't insulated yet and we needed to have a nice little gap here to cover in from the air getting through the cold air. So the last piece of the puzzle is I gotta put this little stop on here, and this goes down here, so when the door closed it sits up on here. The only problem is I have to put it out here a little bit because it's that clearing right there. So what I'm going to do is attach a piece of 2x4 out here. So that's what I'm going to do now and figure out where I need to put this on the side of the door there. I also want to put a latch in here still to open it with the book. So I need to make sure they're not going to interfere with each other. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So what I came up with is I'm going to take this block and I'm going to screw it, attach it right here into this stud. And then what I can do is I can put my little catch plate right on top of here, like so. And then I can put the other piece on the side of here. And that'll give me that little bit of extra that I needed for it to sit on. I already pre-drilled some screws here, so what I'm going to do is just sink those into here. And then this has sticky tape and a screw on here, so we'll put that down on there. And then once I get that anchored where I know I want it, then I can put the side piece on here and get it all perfect right where I want it. Okay, I'm going to put this on here. hopefully it won't interfere with anything. I got it out of the way enough here that when you come in and out it shouldn't be an issue. So here you go, if you can see it. See the brackets right here. I just had to put a little spacer in there, but it sits right on this nylon thing and it just locks it right in there. And then what it also does is it carries the weight of this too when it's closed, so you don't have to worry about it sagging. So that gives me a nice little lock just for the time being to hold it right there and also keep it from sagging down. So then what I'll do next is underneath here I'm going to put a latch in, and the cable line's going to run underneath there and up to the book. So that's what I'm going to do now.